Hi, my name is David Fleming from Disciples Ignited, and we're studying Gems in John, devotional thoughts throughout the Gospel of John that are going to help us in our walk with Jesus. Now, today we're going to once again look at John chapter 1, verse 14. This scripture is so jam-packed full of powerful truths that it's taken us several videos to get through it, but let's read it once again. The NIV tells us, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." Now, we want to look at the very end part of this passage where it says that he came full of grace and truth. Let me tell you an experience I once had when I was working full time, but I was also in full time ministry, and I was just worn out. I was, like many of you have been, tired beyond tired. But every day after I would work an 8-hour shift at my work, I would drive to the church and I would spend time with the Lord, just in His presence. And I remember getting to church one day. It'd take me about an hour to get to the church, and I was just laying in the presence of the Lord, and I was so tired. I was just beyond being able to hardly even pray. But I laid down and in the Lord's presence, and I said, "Lord, I am so tired." And then I began to think of Jesus and how He ministered. He ministered all day long, teaching the multitudes, often working miracles, healing the sick, casting out demons. And then after that, sometimes he would spend all night in prayer and then begin the whole thing over again. And I began to meditate on that. And I said, "Lord, how did you do it? How did you go through all that and expend yourself physically like that?" And the Lord spoke to me. And He said, "David, I'm full of grace." Wow. And then I remembered what Jesus spoke to the Apostle Paul. He said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power, the power of God is made perfect in your weakness." When I think of all that Jesus did and how He expended Himself, giving all that He gave and put His all into everything that He did in ministry and in serving His Father and advancing God's kingdom. He expended Himself physically, but He was able to do so because He was full of God's grace. Just think what His grace can do in our lives. If we will just quit trying to walk in our own strength, our own power, our own ability, and begin to trust in Him, lean upon Him, and focus on Him and say, "Lord, I believe that your grace is more than sufficient to help me." That's how Jesus did it. And that's how He's going to help us accomplish His will in our lives. Think about that. And join me tomorrow as we discuss another gem in the Gospel of John. See you then.